All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're holding up a mirror to leadership, and if you're in a position of power, or you hope to be one day, this is a really crucial moment of reflection. We're going to make sure the legacy you're building is one of growth, not destruction.
So I want you to start with this one central question. Are you building your team up, making them stronger, more capable, or are you, maybe without even realizing it, breaking them down? We're here to help you answer that with some brutal honesty.
In this quote right here, this is our whole philosophy for today. I want you to think of this whole explainer as a diagnostic tool. It's not about pointing fingers. It's about identifying destructive patterns. In other people, sure, but more importantly, in ourselves, before they can take a company down from the inside out.
So, here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by talking about why this self-reflection is so important. Then we'll dissect the 7 key archetypes of toxic leadership. We'll see them in the wild with a pretty eye-opening case study, give you a toolkit to fight back or avoid becoming one, and we'll wrap up by thinking about what a leader's ultimate legacy really is.
Okay, this first part is all about perspective. Recognizing toxic leadership traits isn't just some HR checklist thing. It's a fundamental act of strategic self-preservation. Because think about it, a team that feels devalued and psychologically unsafe, well, they just can't innovate, they can't collaborate, and they definitely can't win.
And now for the main event, the Toxic 7. We're about to break down 7 very distinct, very real faces of bad leadership. And as I'm describing them, I want you to ask yourself, does any of this sound familiar? And remember, these aren't just personality quirks, these are destructive patterns that have some pretty devastating consequences.
First up, we have the performer. Oh, you know this one. Their LinkedIn is this masterpiece of motivational quotes, photos captioned, "So grateful for my amazing team." But back at the office, it's a total mess. Deadlines are flying by, processes are broken, maybe salaries are even late. The psychology here is something called digital narcissism. To them, the company isn't really a business, it's just a stage prop for their personal brand. And the employees? They're just extras in the show.
Next, let's talk about the passion exploiter. This leader is basically allergic to talking about money. It's always about the mission, the vision, we're a family here. But the second an employee asks for a raise or for overtime pay, suddenly they're labeled not a team player or too transactional. This is a classic case of moral manipulation. They weaponize emotion to get out of a basic financial responsibility, and it leaves employees feeling burnt out and somehow guilty for just wanting what they're worth.
And then there's the infamous Seagull Manager. This leader is a ghost during the day-to-day grind. No guidance, no support, no direction. But the moment a crisis hits, they swoop in, make a ton of noise, crap all over everyone, and then fly away, leaving the team totally demoralized and stuck cleaning up the mess. The psychology here is pretty simple. It's a lazy grab for power. They only show up to assert authority through punishment.
Let's meet Type 4, the champion of toxic positivity. In their world, there are no problems, only opportunities. Any mention of risk or a potential issue gets shot down as negative energy. But this isn't strength. It's actually a profound weakness. It's a complete denial of reality, where they use forced optimism like a shield to hide from hard truths. And the consequence is terrifying. The entire company can be cheering as it sails directly toward an iceberg that everyone was forbidden from talking about.
Okay, this one is subtle, but it is incredibly damaging. The Benevolent Manipulator. They'll frame really harsh criticism with, "I'm only telling you this because I care about you." They'll dump a mountain of extra, unpaid work on your desk and call it a special opportunity. The psychology is so insidious. It's weaponized benevolence. They use the language of kindness to create this sense of emotional debt, trapping employees in a cycle where they feel like they can never, ever say no.
With the Narcissistic Nitpicker, it is never about the work. It is always about their ego. This is the leader who will ignore 99% of a successful project just to fixate on a 1% flaw, a font size, a misplaced comma. They never give praise because admitting someone else did a good job would feel like a threat. This is a powerful ego defense mechanism. Deep down, they're insecure, so they have to find fault in others to feel superior and protect their own fragile self-image.
And finally, we have the Moody Boss. With this leader, the rules change based on how they're feeling that day. A brilliant idea might get celebrated on Monday and then get shot down for the exact same reason on Tuesday. It's just pure emotional immaturity, and it creates a workplace of constant anxiety. The team ends up spending way more energy trying to read the boss's mood than actually doing their jobs.
So, theories are one thing, but seeing this kind of toxicity in action is something else entirely.
Let's dig into a case study focusing on Type 6, the Narcissistic Nitpicker, to really understand just how devastating this behavior can be.
So, meet Vung. He was a creative director at an ad agency. And this quote? This was his actual response when his team presented 5 brand new ideas for a huge project. He didn't offer feedback. He just delivered a blanket insult, immediately making it clear that he was the only smart one in the room.
But here's the most telling part of this story. This whole meltdown happened during an internal review after the client had already approved the demo. The project was a success. But Vung completely ignored that to publicly scream at his team over a 1mm, basically invisible logo shift. See, it was never about the logo. It was about asserting dominance and humiliating his people.
And this slide just lays it all bare. This is the core mechanism of the Narcissistic Nitpicker. When that project succeeded, Vung's social media posts were all about how he single-handedly achieved victory. He took all the credit. But when another project failed, he blamed the team's incompetence for ruining his world-class idea. It's a perfect system, right? He gets all the glory, and they get all the blame.
And here is the inevitable result. 80%. That was the turnover rate in Vung's creative team in just 6 months. The talented people left, the company's work got worse, and eventually clients started to walk away. The toxicity didn't just hurt morale, it literally destroyed business results.
So after seeing that kind of destruction, the question has to be, how do you stop it? How do you prevent yourself from becoming one of these archetypes? And what do you do if you work for one? Let's get into a practical toolkit.
For leaders, it really comes down to daily self-awareness. First, track your interactions. Are you praising more than you're criticizing? If that ratio is way off, you might be a nitpicker. Second, when something goes wrong, your very first question should be an internal one. What was my role in this? Before you look to blame someone else. And third, you have to fight that insecurity. Actively seek out and hire people who are better and smarter than you are. They're only a threat to a fragile ego, but they are a massive asset to a healthy company. Now, if you're an employee stuck in this kind of situation, you need a defense plan. Number 1, document everything. A quick email that says, hey, just confirming your verbal instruction to do X, Y, and Z takes away their power to say, you misunderstood. 2, keep a file of your accomplishments, of positive feedback. This is your proof of value. And 3, and this is the hardest one, plan your exit. You cannot fix a true narcissist. Your number 1 priority has to be protecting your own mental health.
This all brings us to the final and I think the most important point. When all the projects are finished and the quarterly reports are filed, what's actually left? What is a leader's real ultimate legacy?
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? The numbers are going to fade, the campaigns will be forgotten, but the human impact, that feeling you instill in the people you lead, that lasts. They will carry that with them for the rest of their careers.
So in the end, it really all boils down to a pretty simple choice. Do you want your legacy to be that you made people feel small and stupid, or that you made them feel valued, seen, and capable of achieving more than they ever thought possible? That last line is worth hearing again. Your ego should not be a tomb for someone else's talent.
So we're going to end with this question. Not what they say to your face, but what do they say about you when you've left the room? Because that is your truth. That is your legacy. Think about it.